morning, good afternoon, good evening. Zimbabwe has failed to hold free, fair, and credible elections for 45 years and counting. In 2023, SADC, the regional body, the AU, election observers condemned Zimbabwe's elections as flawed and illegal. We have the documentary evidence to show that without reforms, the elections in Zimbabwe will never be free, fair, and credible. We know that. The question then is, why are we keeping on participating in flawed elections? This is a relevant question that must be asked. 45 years is a long time, repeating the same idiotic things over and over again. Here is Professor Jonathan Moyo explaining why elections in Zimbabwe will never be free, fair, and credible without first implementing the reforms.
Chigumba is the mother of the rigging, and Malaba is the father of the rigging. Endorsed what the mother was doing. It is actually scandalous. You see, ZEC is not supposed to be controlled by any authority.
Yeah, it's supposed to be independent.
It is an independent constitutional body. In fact, independent commission. It's a Chapter 12 institution. But ZEC did not run anything important. It never did. The computers were run by Africom. The registration, accreditation, and so forth were run by a CIO company. So between the CIO and the army, they ran the processes, the operations, using their instruments. Either Matsanga, who is actually active, she's employed. She joined the, not joined, she was seconded to the electoral body in 2008 as a divisional intelligence officer. Now she is a director in the CIO. As we speak right now, she's a director, and she was congratulated and rewarded for rigging the 2018 election. And she was given a house in Borodale, a posh mansion in there. So there is a serious problem that whereas on paper, ZEC is supposed to be an independent constitutional body that runs elections transparently, efficiently, and impartially. No, it doesn't. It doesn't because it does not even itself run. The elections are run for ZEC by the securocrat.
So there cannot be any debate on that point. Zimbabwe cannot hold free, fair, and credible elections without first implementing the reforms. The SADC observer team of the 2023 elections made that abundantly clear. The question then is, why are we keeping on participating? Mnangagwa himself, after the SADC damning report came out, he made it very clear that he didn't give a damn. far as he was concerned, SADC and the AU were now our enemies, or detractors, as he called them. Here he is restating that point.
Vana vakatuka Zanu PF kana ndonyanyisa kufara ndikuita zvakanaka. Ukavona vavengi vako vachikurumbidza nekuchikanganisa, ukavona vachiti Zanu PF yakaipa, farai. You are doing correct things for your country. Hongu takaita maelections edu, kuna vamwe vaitaura zvisina musoro zvikanzi maelections anafamba zvakanaka, ndezvavo.
Of course, it is nonsense. SADC and the AU election observers, when they condemn those elections as flawed and illegal, they are not our enemies. They are not our detractors. They were telling us the truth. What Mnangagwa was demonstrating there is that the regime has no intention whatsoever in carrying out the reforms so that the elections are free, fair, and credible. The most important question then one has to ask is, why are the opposition supporters participating in these flawed elections? One can understand Zanu PF's motive for holding flawed and illegal elections. They want to hang on to power. They're not going to give it up. And they will never reform themselves, because they know if the elections were free, fair, and credible, they would lose them. The opposition candidates themselves, they are participating in these flawed elections out of greed, pure and simple. Even after SADC and the AU condemned 2023 elections, CCC candidates who had won the few gravitering seats in those elections, people like Fazai, David Coulthard, Ostalos, and so forth, they all took up their seats, claiming, oh, we use our own money. Yes, you may have used your own money. So you don't care that the election process is flawed, as long as you get one of the few gravitering seats. That is the reality. They don't give a damn. Those candidates, all they are looking at is getting one of those few gravitering seats, and they're sitting pretty. Zanu PF is giving away those few gravitering seats because they know, they've got the common sense to know that in this day and age, winning 98% of the seats in parliament will not go down well. Yes, Tanzania did that, but Zanu PF don't expect them to make that kind of stupid mistake. So the opposition candidates themselves are participating out of greed. The Zanu PF supporters, why are they participating? Well, those in the rural areas particularly, they are coerced. They are frog-marched to attend Zanu PF rallies. They are frog-marched to go and vote for the regime. The only one time when Zimbabwe came to closest to holding free, fair, and credible elections was in 2008. And as the results started coming in and the regime realized it was losing, it stepped in. And guess who was at the head of it? Mnangagwa and Chiwenga, according to Dr. Ibo Mandaza. We all know about Operation Gukrawundi. Here is a test for those who have forgotten.
I also know that Mugabe conceded defeat on 2008. He phoned Mbeki and Obasanjo to concede defeat. I hope that Thabo Mbeki and Obasanjo will one day make that public. But one of them, I won't say which one, told me that Mugabe phoned them that Saturday night and said, look, I lost the election and I concede defeat. And I know that Mugabe stuck to his guns, was prepared to go. His wife was since bags packed to go somewhere on the following day when Mnangagwa and Chiwenga approached him and said, you stay where you are. And then they contrived the runoff, sadly with the help of South Africa. And runoff took place, very violent. 360 people were killed. The South African, I came here as part of a delegation to Cape Town to see members of the ANC. I don't want to mention names, they're my friends. I saw them, and through them, a cabinet committee subcommittee of South African cabinet was set up on the Zimbabwe issue. It was on the basis of that cabinet committee that South Africa did not recognize the runoff. And indeed, it was the basis of that committee that Thabo sent the generals to South Africa, to Zimbabwe. I met them, and I was one of the few to have read the report, because I was flying to Joburg in the company of General Romano, who was a friend. He passed away, no? So, yeah. And I also took people who had lost their hands in the violence to the South African embassy in Harare. And Romano broke down in tears. How can a liberation movement treat these people like that? He was a broken man. So there's no doubt at all here in South Africa as to the brutality of the regime in Harare. So it amazes me, it angers me, in fact, when I hear the nonsense coming out of people like Mbalula's mouth. They know it.
What is equally tragic here is that the people of Zimbabwe themselves are helping this regime to stay in power. Why are the opposition supporters participating in flawed elections when they've been told, warned several times that if you participate, you give the regime legitimacy? This question we cannot run away from. And what is so disappointing is that most of these opposition supporters have had at least 11 years of formal education, or Form 4 education. And some of them, many of them in fact, even hold university degrees. Professionals in their own right. And yet, they are the ones who have been conned by the likes of Chamisa to participate in flawed elections on the basis of an idiotic lie like I've plugged vote-rigging loopholes. Why? Why is it that he has found it so easy to con these people? Millions of them. The only answer one can come up with is you can take some people out of the ghetto, but you can't take out the ghetto slave mentality out of some people. There is absolutely no excuse for Zimbabweans to keep participating in these flawed elections. What I've got on the screen there is the results of the recent by-elections. Zanu PF won. And as you can see, the opposition had some support. Why did those people go out there and vote in a process that they know is so flawed, so illegal? The result is predetermined. And worse still, that if they participate, they give Zanu PF legitimacy. They keep participating because, yes, you can take some people out of the ghetto, but you can't take out the ghetto slave mentality out of some people. That is Zimbabwe's tragedy. Think about it.